enjoy yet in LA as always, but yeah, nice to see your face again. It's been a minute. Thanks for
Uh-huh.
inviting me on the Beatport Twitch today. I love it.
Yes, yes. We Plug-in Boutique. That's where I'm from, obviously. We just joined the Beatport group, and we've been chatting with the Beatport family about how to switch up the content on the Beatport Twitch channel here. And we said, maybe we can come over and do a takeover and have some talented mix engineers, producers, people who manufacture plugins, just interesting music-related stuff come in, and we do a little bit of an interview and perhaps get some track walkthroughs, for example, which we'll be doing today. And we were chatting about who would be the perfect first guest, and around the office it was DJ Swivel all day.
I love it. I love it.
As soon as Gareth said, why don't you reach out to Jordan? I was like, oh no, that's brilliant. That's exactly what we should do.
Well,
So
that's awesome.
I appreciate you taking the time to
Of course.
stop by today. We'll chat for a little bit, and then I'm going to throw it to you to do what you got lined up for us, a track walkthrough?
Yeah, I have a song from an artist, one of the artists who I've signed, Aria. Great song, and it's sort of a complete mix. So we're going to go through the whole mixing process and kind of just how I structure records and just kind of give a little bit of my creative process. We'll see all the
Absolutely
plugins.
wonderful.
We'll see we'll go through it all. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Before we do that, let's tell the people a little bit about you and why they should perk up in their seat and take a listen when you start to talk about these things. Can you give us a little bit of a background? I mean, you've got quite an impressive resume, as it were. So if you just want to let us know kind of the elevator pitch about Jordan Young, aka DJ Swivel.
Sure. Well, I'm not sure how much they need to perk up, but yeah. So my name is DJ Swivel. I'm a producer, songwriter, mix engineer, and I've been making records for, probably, probably about 20 years now, from when I first started like my beat making journey. Yeah, but professionally for about 15 years, I'd say. Actually, yeah, 15 years. Oh my God, now I'm feeling very old. But yeah, and I started my career, I was working with Fabulous, and I was interning under my mentor Duro in New York City. Then I kind of graduated and became Fabulous's engineer, and did From Nothing to Something and Loso's Way with him, and ended up co-mixing Loso's Way with Duro, which was like a huge honor because, Duro's like one of my mix idols and whatnot. And then a couple years after that, I got a call to go work with Beyonce, and I became her engineer for a couple years and did her album 4, and some of that landed on the Beyonce album as well, the subsequent album. And then then I moved to LA a few years after that, and linked up with the Chainsmokers and started getting more opportunity to sort of co-produce, and I was doing all the vocal production and helping them just finish records, and of course do all the mixes. And during that period, we did, we won a Grammy for Don't Let Me Down, and Closer was a huge success, and Something Just Like This. We had a number of those records, and then that kind of like led me to BTS. And then over the last few years, I've been doing a lot of writing and producing, and mixing as well, but primarily writing and producing for BTS, and that's been incredible as well. So yeah, that's like kind of the very condensed version of my career.
I mean,
and now I make plugins too. So that's actually how we met. We met at NAMM, right?
Yeah. I think 2 years ago.
A couple of years ago, yeah. So I'm still making records every day. I'm still writing and producing and doing all that. But now I'm sort of at that stage where I'm looking at like what's next and what are some other ways that I can maybe try to help influence the industry like creatively. And yeah, I thought plugins would be a good fit. I love technology, and I like the creative process of building things and making products. And at the end of the day, these are all things that I use. So I thought, well, if I like these plugins, then maybe other people will too. Hopefully they will. And so over the last few years, I started doing that. So we're into our second year now of building and releasing plugins, and we have 3 products that are out, as you know.
Yeah. I just want to, you casually gloss over working with Beyonce, which is just insane to me. You're just like, yeah, then I did Beyonce's album. Let's just pause there for a second.
Sure.
I read somewhere that you actually flew to Australia and you guys rented a house and like it was you, Jay-Z, Kanye, and
Yeah.
just like the Holy Trinity essentially.
Kind of, yeah.
Like just can you walk me through like what that experience was like and kind of like what was your job detail there? Like what are you doing specifically on the day-to-day? Are you tossing out lyric ideas? Are you just mixing from a technical standpoint, making sure things are mastered and mixed correctly? Like what was your day-to-day there with Beyonce?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I was her engineer. So, and you know, Beyonce kind of works with a very small team, at least at the time. A lot of times it would just be her, myself, an assistant, and a security guard. It would just be four of us at the studio. And of course, you know, as we're working, she's bringing other songwriters and producers in and creating. But as far as like the her immediate team, it was kind of just the four of us. Yeah, basically, I filled in. Basically, I got a call from Omar Grant, who's the president of Rock Nation now, and he had a relationship with Beyonce, and she was looking for a fill-in engineer. So he called me and said, "Could you fill in for her engineer for a day or two?" And I said, "Sure." I'm sure it wasn't nearly that casual. I was like, "Really, Beyonce? Oh my God." But yeah, so I went and did a few days of sessions, and then she went on vacation for like 6 weeks, and I never heard from her for like 6 weeks. And I thought, well, that was fun. I got to meet Beyonce and did a couple of days with her, and that's cool. But I didn't think anything of it. And then she came back from vacation, and her assistant reached out and said, "Hey, can you come to the studio today? B would love to have you come in." I said, "Of course." So I went to the studio, and she asked me. She said, "Hey, I'm about to start doing an album. Are you available? Can you do this album with me?" And I said, "Absolutely." And we started, and that was sort of when that would have been in 2010. In the kind of the beginning of 2010, we started 4, and yeah. And then kind of like what I was doing, I was like cutting vocals and like coordinating with the producers and the songwriters, and you know, Dream was there for a lot of it and wrote a lot of the album. So he'd be in the other room and he'd finish a song, and I'd go get the vocals from him, bring them over, load it into her session. So it was kind of a factory, but I was the Beyonce room cutting all the vocals, and you know, even like just like adjusting some production stuff, adding like little drum sounds here and there. But mostly there was other producers there, and my role was the engineer. Right. So I mixed a few songs on the album as well.
All right, that's absolutely fantastic. Now you said you're doing a lot of work on her vocals. Is this kind of where the inspiration for The Sauce came from? The first plugin you guys released?
No. The Sauce came after Beyonce. So, like, we did this album. We worked on it for about a year. As you mentioned, like, we went to Australia. Jay and Kanye were doing Watch the Throne. We were in London. We kind of did the rounds, and it was a fun process. And then after that, I'll give maybe a more in-depth version of my career, but it does lead to where we get to plugins. After that, you know, when you work with Beyonce, you're on call 24/7, and it's a full-time gig, right? More than full-time. Like, you're literally on call, you know, nonstop. And, you know, I guess all the clients that I had before her, they couldn't get me anymore because I was just with her every day. I just could not do other sessions. So they had to like find replacements. And I thought when I was done with the album, I would be so busy and everyone's going to call me because, you know, now I'm in with Beyonce. But it was actually the complete opposite. My phone was silent. Now, thankfully, I needed a bit of a vacation after the year that we had because we just worked nonstop. But then I kind of found myself like, it was quiet, and you know, she's not a producer per se, so she's only in the studio when she's making a record. It's not like she's Kanye or somebody like that who's just in the studio 24/7. Even if they're not working on their own album, they're working on somebody else's. Or Kanye's always going to have a studio around him if he feels creative. So because she's not like that, I basically had to like kind of rebuild myself. And that was where I decided, all right, I'm going to start focusing on mixing, where I can work with multiple clients at the same time, and also start looking at, other avenues. How can I leverage, like, I love technology. How can I do things in technology that can like sort of, apply to music and build something there. So, I started a few businesses, and a few years into that like lull period, I met the Chainsmokers, and the idea for the sauce actually came from them. Not from them, but from my work with them. And basically, as when I was working with Beyonce, it was like very hip hop centric, like urban R&B hip hop was like the dominant music at the time. And then pop music around that time started to really become like that, the LMFAOs and, the Lady Gagas, and that became really popular at the time. So then fast forward, music started shifting to like just straight up EDM. Like for the next like 5 years was just like 4 on the floor dance beats. And, that's actually how I discovered Beatport, was in that era. And so, then music sort of shifted, and I was sort of part of that shift with the Chainsmokers. They kind of slowed down EDM. And in that process, we were doing a lot of like vocal chops, just creating like unique sounding vocal ideas, whether it's a actual vocal chop that was like a prominent part of the record, or I would do a lot of these like vocal chop-esque things that would be like just on one ad lib or just on a reverb, and try to get weird with these pitch and formant shapers and whatnot. So that's what really gave me the idea, because a few years later when I decided, all right, now I'm going to invest the time and money and energy into building a plugin, I said, well, what's the first thing I could do? And I started looking at some of my the bigger tracks that I worked on, looking at the sessions, and I started looking for tracks that had 4 or 5 or 6 plugins on it, because I was clearly on those sorts of tracks, I'm trying to achieve something, and there isn't one tool to do it. And I thought, well, why don't I make a vocal chop plugin? I noticed all these vocal chops had 6 plugins on it, 7 plugins daisy chained. I said, well, why don't I make a plugin that does all of that in one simple tool, where a user has presets and they can just pull up a preset and it's like, there's your vocal chop, like good to go. Just sing into it and you're good to go, or cut something and then add it later and you're good to go. So that was like the initial idea for the sauce, which was my first plugin. So it's like a vocal chop tool. But what's funny is I put it out and I thought, oh, everyone will use it for vocal chops. And, I found even for myself, I use it on everything. I use it on drums. Like if I want to like just formant shift down drums and make them kind of grungy and like dirty and kind of like lo-fi, I use the sauce for that a lot. Obviously vocal chops, but I use it for like as a reverb. I use it as a delay. It's become like this multi-effect tool that I kind of use for a lot of different things.
Yeah, so. It's like you said, like 7 different plugins. Can you just run us through the different areas of each one of the sections of the sauce? I know you have a quite clever naming system on it.
Sure. Well, I mean, I can in the session I'll pull it up, but basically we have, and I'll go through it in a little more detail. But basically, it's a multi-band. First of all, it's a multi-band tool. So all of these different effects that are built into it, you can separate them across 3 bands. So you start with pitch and formant shifting. You can pitch and formant shift like, 20 hertz to 500 hertz one way, and you can formant shift 500 hertz to 3000 hertz another way, and then 3000 to 20K you can formant shift and pitch shift another way. So you can create these interesting harmonic variations of a vocal, and it becomes like really cool. You can get really creative and like maybe pitch the lows up, pitch the highs down, or pitch the highs up, pitch the lows down. You can create this like really separated, interesting harmonic vocal. So we start with pitch and formant shifting. There's a compressor on there with 2 settings. I want it to be very simple, so you're not dialing in every effect. I dialed the effects in, and then there's a few different options. You pick how much of it you want. So pitch and formant shifting, there's saturation, distortion, flanger, a chorus, a stereo imaging tool, 3 different reverbs, fully functioning delay. Can't really do delay presets, a little harder. fully functioning delay, and then there's output filters, a high and low pass. Yeah, and then all of that is multiband. So like I said, you can have one reverb on the highs and a different reverb on the lows if you want. And of course, the multiband is the crossovers are editable as well. So you can get really creative with it.
It's like the Swiss Army knife of plugins.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. And I'm already sort of exploring the ideas like, all right, how do I improve on it for the Sauce 2? And I don't know when we'll probably start working on that, towards the end of the year. But I have a lot of ideas on ways that we can even take it to the next level. So excited for what's next.
I'm looking forward to it. You make sure to hit me up on the beta tester.
Yeah, absolutely, of course.
So the sauce came out, and then what came next? I know you've got 3 plugins out at this point.
3 plugins. Right? So the Sauce came first, and we're kind of taking a TikTok strategy. So the Sauce took almost a year to build, and a lot of time, a lot of energy, and it was a huge learning process. I had never built a plugin before. Obviously, I had my development team, but even just the process of figuring out how to route things and do all that, there was a learning curve. So the first one we got out, started selling it. It was doing well, and I said, all right, cool. There's enough of a response here. I should keep doing this. So then the next plugin I wanted was I wanted a stereo imaging tool that I wanted to use. There was a bunch of imaging tools that were out there that were usually just single band and one algorithm, and I didn't always love how it sounded. And I use stereo imaging more than probably any, other than EQ and compression. Stereo imaging is by far the most used thing in a lot of sessions that I do, especially pop sessions where you want a nice wide vocal and just a big wide polished mix. And so I said, all right, I want to build a multi-band stereo imager tool that would allow me to adjust the highs, the mids, the lows a little bit differently, or all together if you want. So I could use it for both mastering purposes, for mixing purposes, and there's just a lot of uses for it. I use it as a doubler on a lead vocal. I'll, if somebody sends me a vocal and I only have a mono and it's a harmony, well, I want that to be stereo, so I'll use spread on that. Clever name, about as straightforward as it can be. And what I try to do in all my plugins is do something unique about it to maybe solve some problems for some engineers. So one of the simple things that we did on it was we have a side roll-off filter. And what that means is, if you're spreading a vocal or whatever, those low frequencies, if they're spread stereo, they can create some weird phasing things sometimes. And so, up to, usually I try to roll it off all the way up to 200 hertz, sometimes 150 or something like that. But we have this filter and it'll just take the lows out of the sides and not the mids. And that's one of those things that's just corrective. It's there, just to make sure that you don't have mistakes, even if you're not sure if you do or not. So it's one of those simple corrective things. And then we have a tilt function on it. And these, and now we're actually releasing a new version in the next few weeks. It's a free update that has an additional algorithm on it and an output knob as well. So yeah, it really just was about doing something unique and on a tool that I use all the time, Right.
Unique and extremely helpful for anyone who's trying to make a...
Yeah, having the multi-band side of it is super helpful when you're doing if you have a keyboard part and it's occupying a lot of frequency spectrum, maybe you just want the highs brighter, maybe or wider. And of course, the algorithm that we developed folds down to mono perfectly, so there's no phase flipping and anything like that. If you fold down your mix to mono, you'll hear your vocal perfectly in phase, no problems. That was really important for me, is making sure that if you fold down a mono, it wouldn't introduce problems into a mix. So that's always been my approach. How do I simplify it and, prevent any problems from arising in a mix?
All right.
Yeah.
So that was
that was the second plugin.
Yeah, and then there was BDE, right?
And then BDE was the third one. So that, again, the TikTok strategy, BDE was a little bit more ambitious. So we were actually building spread and BDE together the whole time, but BDE took longer and so it came out later, of course. And BDE is my flagship distortion. It's got 6 different distortion algorithms. It's got a bit crusher. It's got a sample rate modulator, so you can drop the sample down sample your mix, and it's the world's first distortion with dynamic preservation, is what I'm calling it. Basically, you know, before I knew how to make music and how everything worked, you know, I always wished I could have a distortion that didn't make everything squashed and loud, right? And just like compress everything. And so I sort of challenged my team, like, hey, how can we return some of the dynamics where maybe you only want to add the distortion, the kind of the texture of it and the sound of it, but you don't want to adjust the dynamic balance of whatever sound you're using. And so we came up with a really, I think, ingenious way of doing it. And there is some secret sauce in there, but ultimately what it means is if you want to distort a reverb, you can preserve all of that, the dynamics of your reverb tail, and you can apply distortion while still having a really soft reverb tail that doesn't just get, you know, obnoxiously loud. And sometimes you want, like if you're distorting drums, sometimes you want to make them crushed and tight, but sometimes you want to add distortion on drums and still keep the punchiness and the dynamics that you had. So now we can do that. We have a little range slider, and I can show the viewers that in a second here on a session. So yeah, so again, trying to just be innovative and add my own little, you know, my own little flavor to everything. And even with distortion, you know, a lot of people don't realize you have to set your input level correctly so that when you start applying gain, you're actually hearing the effect. If you have a quiet sound on a lot of distortions, if you start applying gain, all it does is just turn it up. And so we have like a little detective, a little magnifying glass. You hit that, play back the audio, and it'll automatically adjust your input and output to be the correct setting. So just little subtle things that make it a little bit easier for engineers to kind of get started and take some of the guesswork out of it.
Perfect. Well, I mean, I think it's a good opportunity and a good time to go ahead and jump into the session and show these people who are watching the plugins and let them hear, more importantly, what they can do. Yeah,
sure. Okay, cool. So I'll jump over. We're going to lose your camera, but that's all good. We'll still hear you if you want to jump in. But yeah, I'll, you know, and this isn't really just about my plugins. You know, this is a session this is a song that's coming out soon. It's actually not out yet, so this will be a near world premiere. I played it on one other Twitch briefly, but basically a world premiere of this song. And this is a finished mix that's going out, so we can go through the whole mix process, and we'll see some of the other plugins I use and all that. So
looking forward to it.
Let me jump over here. Let's see. Here we go. All right. We should be good to go here. And, okay. Let's see. Why do I not see chat, though? Why is chat... Oh, there we go. Chat is back. Okay. All right. So, let's actually, before I get started, let me just see who's all in chat. Marlboro Man, what's up? Graham Farmer, what's up? Glog78, what's happening? Luca, what's happening? Okay, cool. So there's a bunch of other messages in here. I'll scroll up a bit. Weed Carlito, what's happening? Sleeping Forest, what's going on? I see he said something about mid-side. We're adding a mid-side in spread now, and the new version will have a mid-side, a second algorithm, so you'll have 2 options. But the current algorithm we're using is not using mid-side at all. Okay, so this is a song by an artist I signed, Aria. You can go check him out on Spotify or whatever. Somebody can maybe find the link. I think it's Aria Raps, at Aria Raps. And he's a great rapper. And the song is called Fashion Sense. And we're just going to kind of go through the whole process. So I think what I'll do to start is play back the song. Maybe I'll play like a minute and a half. Like I don't think I'll play the whole song, but I'll play like most of the song, like at least up to the second chorus. And then I'll sort of break down my entire process, how I mix, how I get vocals the way they sound, and all that. Cool. Here we go.
Okay, my side piece, make screen, automatic, shorty clean, fully black limousine. She made that a murder scene. Brr, she stepping out, it's an emergency. Automatic, shorty clean, drop dead, go to sleep. Turns up, don't give a fuck. Know it's us, wake you up, run your mouth, take a shot, back talk to me, looking for it, I don't pay none. Welcome to the lake, she said come back to me, I go and jump. Whoa, I just took it out of park. Yeah, she love the sound of me when I let my exhaust spark. Plus she made that angel start. Don't even know the parts. If she wants some too, the first was tearing on my heart. Okay, my side piece, make screen, automatic, shorty clean, fully black limousine. She made that a murder scene. Brr, she stepping out, it's an emergency. Automatic, shorty clean, drop dead, go to sleep. Whoa, whoa, and she got a fashion sense. Whoa. Whoa, she gon' make me cash a check. Whoa, whoa, ooh, she got a fashion sense. Whoa, yellow shorty all on that expensive shit. Turn around, bend down, get it wet, no towel. Literally, she do it now. Hit you hard as 12 rounds. Let you have it back if you could tell me how. Jump back right into it, baby, make me drown. Get it back, double tap, that bitch ain't another brag. Cause trouble full of cap, need a couple under that. She still call me gorgeous, even though that shit a fact. She don't need no personal leverage, want me to a big face. Ice band, another band, cause I can. Yeah, I can. No, we can't. Tell them thanks. My bad, in advance. Tell you thanks. Yo, girl, riding with me too. Okay, my side piece, make a screen. Automatic, shorty clean, fully black limousine. She made that a murder scene. Brr, she stepping out, it's an emergency. Automatic, shorty clean, drop dead, go to sleep. Whoa, whoa, and she got a fashion sense. Whoa, whoa, she gon' make me cash a check. Whoa, whoa, ooh, she got a fashion sense. Whoa, yellow shorty all on that expensive shit.
Okay, we'll stop it there. I basically played most of the song. So yeah, that's Fashion Sense by Aria. It's produced by Stoney and co-produced by me. Yeah, so let's dig into it. Oh, and Eskull too. Sorry, forgot about that. Okay, cool. So this is a pretty standard mix, how I do things, how I structure my mixes. I always start with drums at the top. Primarily, I'm working on, pop contemporary music. So pop, hip hop, EDM, R&B, things of that nature. And so usually drums are at the forefront of everything that I do. Drums and vocals most of the time. So I always start with drums, getting the rhythm section right. Drums, and then I'll add bass. So basically, the way we have it structured here is we have drums all the way down to, well, I guess in this case we're using an 808. So that is sort of acting as the bass. But we have, our 808 here. We have a kick here, a clap and another snare. We have some other like loop. We have a little clap loop, some hi-hats. And and then we have some like percussion sounds here. And like just little sound effects. There's like a little gun sound and a little glass sound. And then we have a melody loop here. Some additional keys and things that I've added down here. And then things like risers, sound effects, the engine start sound, the little chirp sounds, all the little sound effect stuff will go there. Couple vocal tags. And then we get into vocals. And of course, we'll start with lead vocals, then ad-libs, then background vocals. This is standard of all of my mixes. I'll set up buses here. I have my master fader here, and then all of my kind of sends, time-based, delays, reverbs, things of that nature. Those will all go at the bottom. And sidebar, I actually, on djswivel.com/products, if you submit your email, my mix templates, including Pro Tools, Cubase, FL Studio, and Ableton, my mix templates are available for free. So you can go down there, again, djswivel.com/products, get the mix templates for free. And it's basically like this. It's got all of my reverbs that I start a session with, delays, reverb and delay throws, doubler, slap delay, all that sort of stuff. even like vocal, how I treat my lead vocals and my buses. All of that is in the mix templates, and there's versions with all of my plugins, and then also with default. There's another version of the template when you download it with all the default plugins. So if you have none of my plugins, or none of the other plugins that I use, you can still get generally the same sort of starting point with default plugins. So we've done it a few different ways. So go check that out. Anyways, all right, let's dig it right into it. So the first thing like I said, we start with drums. The 808 is like kind of filling most of the space there. So we start with this basic 808, and it sounds like this. So cool, normal 808, and I'm starting with a compressor on it. And you'll notice I have the punch setting turned up about halfway. I love using this compressor just because I like, a lot of times I'm using a compressor to control transients and attacks and of course dynamics. And I like that this gives me the ability to sort of like control how much like punchiness is in the sound. So again, I'll like bypass it. So we tame like the loudness of the tail a bit, but we still keep the punchiness out. Originally, when Stoney sent me the rough of the beat, there was no kick, so I added a kick to layer in myself. And then we also have this T-Rex classic clipper. And that's just adding, just tightening it up a little bit more. Then I duplicated the 808, and we have a second 808 track. And it's largely this, well, it's actually not the same at all. So I'm actually using BDE, one of my plugins, which we talked about on it. And the goal of this is to make it so that no matter what speakers you're on, you can still hear the 808. So let me just play back what it sounds like right now. Cool. So basically what we've done is filtered out the low, because we have the lows on the original 808 up here, right? That's going to cover our lows. And this one's going to add the highs. So let me just play it back without, and then I'll add it. So as you can tell, it adds like that, mid-rangey distortion. And what we've done is I'm just using the nuke setting, real simple, cranking the drive, 9 dB of drive, and then I'm just filtering out the highs and lows. We have a high and low pass filter. So, and while I have BDE open, I'll just sort of explain the whole plugin. So we have a mix knob here, of course, but when you load the plugin up, let me actually close it and let me move this down, and I'll load up another instance of it, just so you can see kind of my process. The first thing I do when I load BDE is I hit this magnifying glass, and it starts to flash, and what it's doing is it's waiting for audio. So I'll start playing audio. And then when I stop and then hit it again, it's going to adjust the level. And in this case, the 808's already at 0, so it's actually turning it down a bit. But oftentimes what it'll do is it will, turn it up, and it'll turn the output down with it. And, just so that it doesn't change the level of the signal before you start applying, gain to it. So we'll do that one more time. And then I'm just like applying some distortion. And then what I wanted to do is just filter out the highs and lows, right? That's cool. But what you can also do is if you don't want to duplicate the 808, you can actually decide which portion of the signal is going to be affected. So if I filter this out, everything below 277 hertz here will not have any distortion applied to it. So it's only going to apply it to everything above 277 and, you know, down to, let's say, 8K. So let's see what this sounds like. That's kind of cool. It gives it like, you know, just if you land at the right frequency there, you know, it kind of makes it feel like it's growing. Because if you know how to build an 808, you know, it's a high-pitched sine wave and a low-pitched sine wave, and it just quickly bends it. That's how you get that 808 sound. So anyways, what else do we have on here? We have an MS function, so you can apply the distortion to a regular stereo signal here or the mids or sides. Maybe you just want the mids, maybe you just want the sides. We have a compressor with just two settings, a soft setting and a hard setting. And you can move where the compressor is either before it hits the distortion or after. We have downsampling and bit crushing. Let's hear what that sounds like. So standard downsampling and bit crushing. So you can really get your sounds dirty. And then the innovative thing that we did, and you won't hear it quite as much on an 808 because 808s are already kind of slammed. There isn't a lot of dynamics to them. But we have this range and speed slider. And basically, this will allow you to preserve up to 96 dB of you know, dynamics. So, for example, if I put this on a reverb tail, like on a reverb return, and I drop this all the way to the bottom, it'll still sound like a smooth reverb. It's just going to have that aggressive, distorted feeling to it. And then speed basically just says, you know, if you turn that on, it's sort of a look ahead. It just tells you how long for the plugin to let go of that dynamic. And so you can create some interesting pumping effects with it, which are quite cool. Anyways, so that's BDE, and that's what we did on the 808. So let me close that, and let's go through some of the other things. So we have a kick drum track here. Let's hear it. Super punchy and tight. What are we doing? Not much. A little bit of compression on this SSL channel. We're boosting 60 hertz a bit. We're also boosting 200 hertz quite a bit, actually, about 5 dB there. And let's see what else. Then we have an Elysia envelope, and we're just boosting the attack a bit. So let's hear the kick without anything. So now it's like really tight and punchy. And then we're just doing a little bit of the T-Rex Classic Clipper. Okay, cool. Then we have a couple claps. Nothing crazy. You know, a lot of this stuff is simple. You know, high pass filter, a little bit of compression. Maybe I'm boosting a little highs here. Nothing too crazy. Same on the little snare. A little bit of compression, filtering out some of the lows, and boosting some highs. Let's see what else. We have this loop here, this clap loop. Simple, you know, high pass, getting rid of some of the, you know, upper mids that I found a little harsh. Nothing crazy. Then we have some hi-hats. Adding a little brightness and a little compression just to bring out some attack on the hi-hat. Then we have an open hat that's got nothing on. Sounds good, doesn't need anything. Another open hat too, same thing, slightly different. It's just pitched down a bit. Then we have this cymbal, just a crash cymbal that I added, and it's just got fresh air on it. So just adding a little shine up top to it. And let's see what else. Then we have this like gun percussion sound. Just again, a little bit of you know, high pass filter, boosting some highs, just simple, you know, channel strip stuff. And then we added a reverb and a pan man to it, so it's moving around a bit. So let's hear it. Oh, sorry. So it's like constantly like panning back and forth. I like that to just add, I do a lot of things like that just to add some stereo space in the mix. Anything that can move and is more dynamic, I try to do. Obviously, you can go overboard with that and make a mix, maybe make it a little distracting in a mix. But on these subtle sounds that only happen once in a while, it's like nice to have some movement on them. And then we have this, and here's what it sounds like without it, by the way. No. Okay, here we go. Wait. So filtered out some lows and whatnot. Then we have this glass percussion sound, just filtering out some lows and some reverb, simple stuff. Big reverb, you know, the mix is at 50%, pretty long decay. I use the Valhalla stuff a lot. All right, so moving on. Now we get to the loop. So this is just a loop, and I did some edits, like some mutes and some verifies and tape stops and things like that. But you know, little edits here in the build up. So I'll show you how I did that. But let's just start with what effects I have on the loop. So let me solo it, and here we go. Okay, so what do we have? We're just doing some compression. Then we have my other plugin Spread on it. So let me quickly show that. Basically, this is just a multi-band stereo imager. It just makes things wider. Let me start from scratch on Spread and show you kind of how I got to what I got to, and you'll hear kind of what it's doing. So here's the... if you have headphones on, you'll hear it pretty well. Actually, you'll hear it in speakers pretty well too. So here we go. And this is the new version that we've been beta testing, and this has the additional MS algorithm as well. The current version that you can download does not have it, but it'll be out very, very soon. Potentially even this week, by the way. So, and this side roll off, you can just kind of hear what you're rolling off. So I know that was very subtle, but there's not a lot of low end in the sides, so that's why. But you can hear a little bit of low end in the sides. So this is kind of like how I, standard way I use Spread. You can use it as a doubler. You can use it in so many different ways. Okay, so we have Spread on there. Then we're doing, we're boosting the lows, but this is automated. I'm only boosting the lows in the intro where there's no 808. The 808 comes in here, and then the 808 that's our bass. So the bass that was in the loop, I didn't want. And because I only had the loop to work with, and I didn't have all the separated parts of the loop, this was just like one of those like ways where, we do that. So here we go. So we just automate to cut out all the lows once the 808 comes in, and it just cleans up our low end a bit, so that we don't have the low end, a bass in the melody and the 808 fighting, because they weren't working perfectly well together. Then we have a little soothe on it. There was, that guitar is a little twangy, so we're pulling out, or suppressing some of the resonance between 1 and 2K. Just simple corrective EQ stuff, really. And then some additional corrective EQ here and boosting some highs here. So let's, I'll just do a bypass on everything and see what we did. So it's brighter, it's cleaner, it's crisper, it's wider, and it's really the only melodic instrument. So I wanted it wide and spread out because, well, there's a few other melodic instruments, but they're, you know, this is the prominent one throughout the entire record. And because all the drums are, you know, mostly mono-ish, the claps might not be, this just gives us some sort of stereo image on the overall mix, which I think is necessary. Okay, cool. So let's see what else we have. So then I added these keys. This is, you can't really see. I'll move the camera a little bit. I have a Prophet Rev 2 over here and a Moog Sub Fatty up there. So these keys are from the Prophet, and here's what they're doing. And then with the effects, a little dirtier, a little thinner, more reverb. What do we do? All right, so we have a retro color on there. Love this plugin. So let's see what that did. So we're just filtering some stuff out, adding a little noise, a little wobble, a little distortion, you know, kind of a bit of everything. Just like, I usually start with this sad piano preset, and then I'll start tweaking from there. That's the one that I like. Usually I'll drop the noise down a lot. Okay, cool. Then we have some resonance suppression. There was some low stuff that I wanted to get rid of, so we did that. It just thins it out and makes it a little smoother. And then we're boosting some highs, cutting out some of the lows. And then throwing this Valhalla Vintage Verb on there. As you can tell, I love this reverb. Okay, what else do we have? Then we have this like kind of melody loop, and there's no effects on this. Just adding some like kind of harmonic dissonance in this section. So let's see if you can hear it.
Better me, I gon' jump. Whoa, I just took it out apart. Yeah, she love the sound of me when I let my exhaust spark. Plus she made that angel start.
And by the way, I just saw Joshua asked, can people send their questions in? Yeah, send questions in. Let me get through showing the mix, and then I'll hang out and we'll just chat, you know, talk shop, you know, as long as you guys want. Okay, cool. So yeah, we have that nice counter melody in that like pre when the drums, it's not really a pre, it's still the verse, but when the drums drop out, I just wanted some sort of like counter melody. A big thing for me with production, all the audio that is like all the way to the end here, these are stems that were provided from Stoney. And then everything that's short, these are all things that I added, you know, including, you know, the kick and the claps here and all these edits. And for me, adding all these little things is about, to me, in a great song, in a great mix, your ears should hear something new every 4 bars or 4 to 8 bars or something like that. Something. Doesn't have to be a lot. It can be very subtle, but just something to keep the song moving. I mean, how boring would this be if it was just the same loop over and over and over again? And unfortunately, that's like kind of what a lot of hip hop records are, but I at least try to like add these little moments of, let's make it a little different. So in the chorus, we add, you know, these keys that add some subtle harmony to it. In the pre, we add this loop that adds a little thing. And then we have, you know, little sound effects and transitions and risers and all these moments that just allow the song to feel a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more interesting. That's my approach. You know, everyone can do their own thing, but that's kind of how I like to approach making records. So anyways, we got the melody, we got the keys, did that. All right, so let's just like go down the line. Some of these are just sound effects, like this engine start sound. You know, just having little moments, again, just to surprise the ear. These little chirps. So this was actually originally in the rap, and then I added these sound effects. So if you listen just to the lyric, she made that a murder scene. She's stepping nice. Right? So he just did a and then I wanted sort of a sound effect over it just to, you know, give it some vibe. So we have that one, which I believe I pitched up a few times, and yeah. And then we have this other one, which is actually my voice. And what are we doing on that? Just like some, filtering and, yeah, just like simple stuff with my voice. And then this one, what are we doing? We're doing a low pass, and then we have a little altar boy. We're just pitching it up. Could have used the softs for this, but, sometimes if you're only trying to do the, pitch informant stuff, like, this works too. Okay, what else do we have? Then we have this like little chant sound, which has a bunch of reverb on it. And some subtle delay. And you'll notice I put the delay after the reverb. That was intentional. I wanted it to like echo out that reverb and make it kind of so the delay felt even spacier. Yeah, that's what we did there. What else do we have? Then we have like a couple other little sound effects. Like at the end here, there's a riser sound that I just chopped. So really, that's just one riser that goes. Like I can pull this out. And I just did a simple edit, just a simple chop, because I thought it was cool. So here's what it sounds like. And of course, I copied over the hi-hats, the hi-hat triplets here. Right? And then also the kick drum. And I chopped the 808 so the 808 didn't ring out. I wanted just a nice tight 808 here. And it like cuts off like pretty abruptly, actually. So I'll lead into that a little bit longer so you can kind of see what we're setting up for.
No, we can't tell them things. My bad, in advance, tell you thanks. Yo, girl, riding with me too. Okay, side piece, make screen.
Simple stuff. And then we're taking the melody loop and doing the same thing. Just taking one section of it and just looping it. Simple. Okay, cool. Then we have the producer tags. I didn't put mine in there. I don't usually do that. Maybe I should start doing it. All right, let's get to vocals. So again, my free mix templates, djswivel.com/products. All you got to do is provide an email and you get the mix templates for free. It has a lot of these, like this vocal chain, like most of this vocal chain. Usually what I do when I start a mix and I have vocals, I have 3 different vocal chains that I tend to lean to. And what I'll do is I'll take the lead vocal and just throw it on all 3 and then just cycle through and see which one got it closest. And then I'll just start from there and start tweaking. They all sound a little bit different, but whichever one I like for that particular vocal the best, I start with that, get rid of the other ones, and then I'll just copy that down and start tweaking, get it right on one vocal, then copy it down, and we work from there. What's up, programmist? Hi. Okay. So we have our lead vocal. Let's hear it with nothing on it.
Okay, my side piece, max screen, automatic, shorty clean, fully black, limousine. She made that a murder scene.
Okay. So as you can hear, there's a lot of low end in it, but overall, it's actually a pretty good vocal. So here's what it sounds like with all the effects.
Okay, my side piece, max screen, automatic, shorty clean, fully black, limousine. She made that a murder scene. She stepping out of an emergency.
So we smooth out the frequencies, we get rid of some of that low end stuff. So what are we doing? Standard stuff, really. A de-esser, nothing too complex. Aria is very sibilant, he's very essy, so I got to use a lot of de-essers on him usually. Then just simple channel strip. Bit of compression. I think we're getting between 3 and 6 dB. Let's see.
Okay, my side piece, max screen, automatic, shorty clean, fully.
Yeah, between 3 and 6 dB. A couple loud parts might get a little louder. And then we have, high pass filter and some subtle EQing. We're taming some of the highs. As I said, he's quite sibilant, so he tends to have a very bright voice. So we tame some of the highs. We might bring some of that back in a bit. I can't remember, to be honest. We're boosting some of these like kind of low mids. And that's about it. Then we have another compressor, an RVox. Like with rap vocals, I feel like the vocal needs to be like in your face, like right here. So I'll usually compress twice. And then we have this vitalizer, and it's just adding like some little brightness stuff. So let me just I'll start adding one at a time.
Okay, my side piece, max screen, automatic, shorty clean, fully black, limousine. She made that a murder scene.
All right, so that's with the vitalizer, and then we have another de-esser getting rid of like this kind of 6.5K.
Okay, my side piece, max screen, automatic, shorty clean, fully black, limousine.
Nothing, not too much. It's not getting rid of too much, but just taming some of it here and there. Then we have some additional corrective EQing. Just cutting out some of those areas that are problems.
She made that a murder scene. Brr, she stepping out of an emergency. Automatic, shorty clean, drop dead, go to sleep.
Very subtle. Then we have a soothe that's again just taming some harsher upper mids. And then we're adding a little bit of brightness at the end after we've tamed it and we've like got it all like nice and polished up. We add a little bit of shine at the end, and this is pretty subtle, I think.
She made that a murder scene. Brr, she stepping out of an emergency. Automatic, shorty clean, drop dead, go.
Definitely makes it brighter, but you know, in context of the record, it's what it needed. Okay, cool. Then on the sends, I have the D reverb is just what am I using here? Just a Verb Suite Classics, just a medium room from the FG480. I like this one. And it's a small amount of reverb, just to give it a little space, nothing crazy. So here we go.
She made that a murder scene. Brr, she stepping out of an emergency. Automatic, shorty.
It just puts it in a space. It's so subtle, but it helps make the vocal not feel so like here. It gives it a little space. Then we have a long delay. I think it's a quarter note. It's also going to be quite subtle, I would imagine.
Automatic, shorty clean, drop dead, go to sleep.
Right? So what do we have? Long delay. So we have a H delay, quarter note. We're filtering out some highs, filtering out some lows. The lo-fi button is on. And then I think we just have a doubler. Just like a waves doubler. And I'm leaving the center in, but adding the left and right, you know? And then we send that delay to the A reverb, which, oh, it's funny. That was clearly a mistake because I have the A reverb turned off. So this is part of the template. That's why. So it didn't matter. I didn't want to use it, so I just turned it off. So we can bypass that. And let's see what else we have. Yeah, and then we have a slap delay and a doubler. So the slap delay is probably just like waves. Let's see. Yeah, just like, you know, 65 milliseconds on one side, 57 on the other. Just a mod delay 3. And then the doubler is, you know, with a doubler, it's a much shorter delay time. So we got a bit of doubler here, and that's going to spread. So I have spread all the way out, although I'm taming some of the lows. Like I don't want to spread too much of like below 356 there. And it's just acting as a doubler. So let's see if you can hear it. Usually this stuff is quite subtle, but we'll try our best for you today. And let me mute the delays and other things so there's no distraction. So I'll when I unmute this doubler, you'll hear what it's doing.
Go to sleep.
Oh.
Automatic, shorty clean, fully black, limousine. She made that a murder scene. Automatic, shorty clean, fully black, limousine. She made that a murder scene. Brr, she stepping out of an emergency. Automatic, shorty clean.
So you don't want to go too overboard with it, just a subtle amount, but it just gives some nice stereo image stuff while still like preserving that like strong lead vocal in the middle. Okay, cool. So that's like how I treat lead vocals. We're not going to show that for every track because it's largely the same. You'll see the same plugins on all 3 lead vocal tracks here. Let's see if we're doing anything different on the ad-libs. Let me just hear them, or the backing vocals. So there's more reverb on this. And yeah, but we're not doing anything too crazy here. Mostly the same stuff. Then let's see the ad-libs. So everything, the first 4 plugins are the same, just like taming the vocal, getting it right. And then we're just doing like a simple kind of telephone filter without adding any resonance. Sometimes that bothers me. And then we're doing like, this is kind of another de-esser at 2K. And then we have a pan man just so that those ad-libs are moving around. Sleeping Forest asks, are these your go-to vocal sends for hip-hop then? This is kind of my go-to vocal sense for a lot of music. Although for hip hop, I'll usually use a much smaller reverb like this medium room. For pop vocals, R&B, things like that, I'm usually using either a vocal plate or a large hall, depending on the song. Sometimes you want a bigger, spacier reverb. Sometimes you want just like a nice like vocal reverb, like a plate. But again, they're all in the template. So, you know, my A reverb is my largest reverb. It's bypass right now, but I'm pretty sure it's a Valhalla vintage verb. The B reverb is a Valhalla plate. Sometimes I'll switch that out for a Pro R or something like that. The C reverb is this like sizzly reverb. It's a Verb Suite Classics. Again, it's a very sizzly, high frequency, long tail reverb. It's almost like adding like some sort of like a percussion, like shaker thing that just sizzle. It's like almost like a rattlesnake in a way. But I use that very sparingly. It's more just to add a little shine to some reverb. And then, yeah, I have my medium delay, which is usually an eighth note delay. My long delay, which is a quarter note. And then I have two throws, which these are in the template. I didn't use them in this song, but you know, this would be what I would normally have. An eighth note where I filter out all the lows. Usually I'll also filter out the highs, and then add a doubler to it. And usually with this stuff, you know, this is more just about a timed delay that like has some, you know, maybe it's a different time. So this is one of those things where I might change it, right? And then my throw two, I actually use a sauce, and we're using the sauce in delay mode, if you will. It's not like turning on a mode, but everything is like mix knobs. So like if you set the delay to 100%, you're only hearing the delay, right? You're only hearing the delay. So then it becomes a delay. But what we're doing on this is, and I'll matter of fact, I'll just play you what it would sound like. We're format shifting the delay. So this is one of the great things about the sauce, which I haven't really, you know, dug into yet. But let's just see. Let's go to throw two, just so you can hear. And this might sound great. It might sound terrible. I don't know. We'll find out. But let me bypass that delay, and let me throw like a fair bit on there, and let's just see what it does.
Okay, now I'm better.
Okay, so let me loop a section that has like a bunch of ad-libs.
Whoa, yeah, wait, come on. Whoa, yeah, wait, come on.
Let's turn the reverb down a bit.
Whoa, yeah, wait, come on. Whoa, yeah, wait, come on.
You know, basically you can get really creative with your reverbs or your delays. And you can like format shift them up or pitch shift them up, format shift them, mess around with it, change the spread, add some distortion, do whatever you want really. So let me do a quick run through on and this is just a preset. It's called Delay Aftertaste. Where is it? Boom, right here. So basically, let me just run through it. So we have pitch and format shifting here. If you hit the link button, these work together. And you can also, you know, if you hit the command function on a Mac, you can, you know, fine tune if you want or whatever. And then you have a mix control on the flavor, you know, I call it flavor. Then we have spice, which is kind of harmonic distortion. So there's like a saturation here.
Whoa, yeah, wait, come on.
And then a more aggressive distortion.
Whoa, yeah, wait, come on.
Okay. Then we have like a chorus and a flanger. So here's the chorus, sweet.
Whoa, yeah, wait, come on.
And then a flanger if you're on sour. So that's sugar and spice, everything nice. Yeah, then we have our delay, which is a standard delay. It's got a mix knob. If you go to 100, now it's acting like a delay. Feedback, your delay time, you know, you just set whatever you want, 16th note, dotted, triplet, whatever. And then you can turn sync off, and you can just have a millisecond delay here. And then this is just ping pong. So if you want ping pong on, just hit that button and turn off if you don't want it. And then we have a high and low pass filter for the delay output. Then we have a compressor here, 2 different settings similar to BDE, and then reverb, 3 settings. And we have a room, a plate, and a hall. And if you set this to 100, then it acts like a reverb. And again, based on the signal chain kind of operates like it hits the pitch informant first, and then spice, sugar, and the compressor, and then the delay, and then the reverb, and then your output filter. And oh, by the way, we also have a stereo imager in the middle. So if you have your delay or your reverb set all the way to 100, this is a reverb now. And now you can, get really weird with your reverbs and like formant shift your vocal into it. And you can create these like unique sounding reverbs. It's like really cool. And then the last thing I'll say is we have a multiband mode. So if you turn multiband mode on, color changes. Now you know you're in multiband mode. And you can change the pitch of the low from the pitch of the mids and the pitch from the highs. Like you can, change everything independently on each section. And this is really cool. You can just get really weird with it and do multi-band like creative effects. It's quite cool and quite interesting. So anyways, I'll let you guys, there's free trials. Go check it out. And if you like it, pick it up. Okay, cool. Let's move on. So I'm actually using the sauce. Let's bypass that. I'm actually using the sauce on this murder vocal. So let's hear what it's doing.
Mercy.
Okay, so I'm setting it to the D reverb, so that's why it has that room texture to it. But here's it drop.
Mercy.
So I basically just took his lead vocal, edited it a bit to get rid of the S, and then we threw the sauce on, and we're just pitching it down, formant shifting it down, adding a little bit of saturation. Mercy. Mercy. And we're filtering out some of the highs as well. Then what do? Then we add a little spread. Oh, I'm using all my stuff on this one. Okay, now we're adding some image to it. Mercy. So now it's going to wrap around that lead vocal. So let's hear it. Let me add the lead vocal with it. So.
Shorty clean, fully black limousine. She made that a murder scene.
You can hear a spread helps that low pitch vocal wrap around the lead. Get out of the way of it. And then we have a de-esser again, just because he's so sibilant. And sometimes when you adjust the formant shifting, it kind of augments the S's. And here's what it sounds like in the end.
That murder scene. She's stepping out.
So that's how we're using the sauce. And then let's see. And then on our like kind of doubler tracks, similar stuff to the lead vocal. It's like really the same. It's the same kind of vocal chain as the lead vocal. A de-esser, a channel strip. Another compressor. We're compressing a lot more of the backgrounds. As you can see, there's 15 dB of gain reduction there. A little bit of like high frequency polish, another de-esser, and then just some corrective EQing. And same, this is a larger reverb. This is the plate reverb, but also a quarter note delay and doubler and all that stuff. And then the woes are treated a little bit differently. They're just filtered out. It's the same kind of thing, but I just wanted these to be filtered. So if you listen to them.
Clean, drop dead, go to sleep. Whoa, whoa. And she got a fashion sense. Whoa, whoa. She gon' marry cat.
And that's just a simple call and response thing. You have the whoa, whoa, and she got a fashion sense. The whoa, whoa, I want to sound different than the response. So we filter it out a bit so that when the response comes in, it feels full. Simple, just little tools, like little tiny tricks there to, get you thinking the song is more dynamic than maybe it really is, right? If you have this call and response, they're both sounding a little bit different. Your ear has to, it's hearing new things. And I find that ears typically like to hear, we get bored of repetitive stuff. So having these like little effects that change up and whatnot is just part of creating a dynamic mix. And then we can quickly touch on what I'm doing on the master. I'm using the FGX from Steven Slate. I usually put Steven's mastering hard, and then I'll adjust the punch and the detail is usually what I do, and also adjust the threshold. And then I have an ozone. And we're just doing and by the way, all of this is in the template. So if you want to go check it out, all of this, even my mastering settings are in the template. And then this is just so that we can stream through Twitch. So anyways, that is the song. It's called Fashion Sense. It'll be out soon. Go follow Aria Raps. Check it out. So why don't we just go, let me like pay attention to chat here a little bit. And, let me answer some questions. Let me see what, so Sleeping Forest, are these your go-to vocal scents for hip hop then? Yeah, like kind of. I mean, it's kind of, as I said, it's kind of a bit of everything. I kind of use the same templates for everything, and I have a rap vocal in the template, and I have a pop vocal in the template. There's 4 different lead vocal, channel settings, and pick the one that works best for you, and then start tweaking. Where's his dream template? This is my dream template. When is the gravy released for people who want a different flavor? Well, hey, maybe that's a good idea. Maybe I should do the gravy. I like it. So anyways, let's see what's anyone else got to say. Does anybody have any questions about what I'm doing? MC Norride, yo, can you show how you separated the 808 from the kick again? You missed it. Oh, sure, real quick. Okay, so we have the main 808 here. And then we add a duplicate. This is just the exact same 808 duplicated on a track below. And we're using BDE to sort of filter out the highs and lows and apply some distortion. So remember, we don't need the lows because we have it here. And, that was the intended sound. And then we layer a kick, a nice, just punchy kick that cuts through, is really tight. And it sounds like this. And obviously you want to make sure your kick is in phase. You'll notice we flip the phase on that kick because here it would have not sounded as good. So that's actually one of those cases where it's not like 180 degrees out of phase. It's maybe like 45 degrees out of phase. So it sounds a little bit better on one side than the other. But this side felt fuller to me, so I like that. And then we're doing just some transient stuff on the kick. Again, I'll bypass everything on the kick, and then I'll turn it on halfway. Nice, really punchy kick, and it marries well with the 808. So hopefully that answers it. Yeah. Okay, who else? Saturation. Yeah, those simple moves. He says the simple moves give so much power in the song. I mean, I always say, like, mixing to me is it's hundreds or thousands of little brushstrokes. Mixing should not be this thing that like takes a song from here and just totally changes it, right? Like, mixing is supposed to enhance what is already created. And so I find it's a lot of like these little subtle brushstrokes that, duplicating this 808 and then just filtering out the lows and adding some distortion. That's like a really simple trick. It's not, a lot of people do this. And then like keeping that kick nice and tight and punchy allows it to kind of fit in, and you got to make sure that your phase is correct. But for the most part, these are just simple tricks and tools. You got to make sure that the kick that you have, sound selection is a big thing, right? Like, make sure the kick that you have is like marries with the 808 well. Like, they have to feel like they go together. If they don't feel like they go together, find a new kick or find a new 808, Okay. Sleeping Forest, do you master your own stuff? I'm curious what you prefer for your integrated LUFS and output ceiling. Let me move this a little bit because I feel like it's not centered. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I don't master my own stuff unless I need to. Sometimes I'm asked to master a song, but I always say I'm not a mastering engineer. I can do it. I kind of know how to do it, but I'm, like when I finish a mix, like I trust the best mastering engineers in the world to do a better job than I will. And I can definitely do the job for sure. And if I'm doing it for my own music, that's fine. I can do that, no problem. But I usually, like, if it's a major label artist or whatever, like, we're going to send it out to a professional mastering engineer. But these mastering settings are, this is what I do. Like, this is a mastered version of the song. Like, I mastered this one. And this was the basic setting. Again, this is all in the template. It's easier to, I'll run through it quickly, but we have a multi-band dynamics, and we're treating the mid and the side differently. We have a multi-band imager. So this is one of those cases, like I could use spread on here, but because I'm using ozone, it's all in line. It just makes sense to do it in ozone. Then we have this like vintage tape thing, applying a little just saturation and like aggressiveness. We have a little bit of EQ. We're brightening up the song a bit and taking out some weird like boxy thing in the middle there. And then we just have a mastering or a maximizer, a limiter. And I'm using the IRC4 modern setting. There's all different modes and settings. They all sound a little bit different. And the amount of gain reduction, let's see. Don't give a fuck. No, it's us. Wake you up. Run your mouth. Take a shot. Back talk. Probably getting about like 3 to 5 dB of gain reduction. I don't know what level, what that actually is. If this is 5, I'm guessing, yeah, maybe it's like 3 or 4 or something like that. So anyways, yeah, that's my standard mastering process chain, if you will. Okay. So anyways, does anyone else have any other questions, or was this helpful in any way? For me, like when I was starting out, like YouTube wasn't a thing, Twitch wasn't a thing. I didn't really have those opportunities to sit in with, mixers or producers who I looked up to and thought I could learn from. So I actually love doing, Twitch. I've been doing Twitch a lot. Have the YouTube channel as well, which we've kind of put on hold for a minute while we focus on Twitch. So for those of you guys who don't follow me on Twitch, that was, I guess, a good time to plug that. It's just follow me, twitch.tv/DJ Swivel. Join us on the Discord every Friday, by the way. Every Friday we do something called Feedback Fridays. So if you join the Discord and submit your music by Thursday at 6 p.m. Los Angeles time, we can't do a million songs, but we will pick 10 songs or 12 songs, and then the next day, Friday at 1 p.m. Pacific, I do a feedback session. I listen to your music, give you all the notes that I can give you. So if you find that might be useful, follow me on Twitch, give me a like, give me a subscribe, and join the Discord. There's a link under the Twitch to join the Discord. There's an invite link to the private Discord, and yeah. And we just try to build like a cool community of people who are making good music, and hopefully I can help enhance the music you guys are making. So join us over there and we'll go do that. Oh, there we go. All of the information there, the Discord, the Twitch, there we go. Yeah, always trust your mastering engineer sleeping for us. Yeah, that's true. Like, when I mix a song, if I spent like too much time on it, my ears might be a little fooled. And so I like sending it out for a second opinion, if you will. But if you can't, it's all good. You can learn how to master. It's not the most impossible task in the world. And to be honest, it's interesting. A lot of people think mastering is that like step that turns the song into this like masterpiece. And this is not to knock mastering engineers. What they do is really important. But I find that a lot of people mix up the mixing and the mastering process. The mixing process is really where all of the, all of that kind of specialness comes. And then mastering, their job, I find, is primarily to ensure that they're the final layer of correction. They're the final layer of, oh, there's a problem here, let's address that. But usually it's like kind of broad, song-based general problems where it's like, oh, let's do a little EQ notch here, let's boost these lows here, let's boost the punchiness here, and they're doing that final kind of balance of everything, and then of course bringing it up to the right level and making sure your dynamics are still there. It's a really important job, but all the creative stuff, all that stuff happens in the mixing process. So That's why I wanted to focus on being a mixer, you know, when I got started. Okay. MC Norad, he's asking, would you be using a slap delay on a vocal the same as a vocal doubler to make it I'm using them both. You can use one. Like, for example, I'm only using as you can see, I'm not using the slap delay. It's bypassed on the verses. I'm only using it on the hook. And again, that was just to make, when you have a simple song like this, it's like kind of loop based and you got your drums, you got your loops, adding these like other sound effects and adding these other harmonic layers really helps. But then also, even just how you treat your vocal. I wanted the hook to feel a little bit different. So I added the slap delay to the hook just to give it make it feel a little bit more stereo, a little bit wider. And I'm also applying the doubler to it as well. All good. It's not killing anything. I'm not going crazy with anything, right? Like we're not maxing anything out. We're doing a very subtle amount of doubling and slap delay. But remember, slap delay is like 50 to 60 to 70 milliseconds, whereas a doubler is like 5 to 20, like somewhere between 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20, like much shorter. So you're not hearing the slap. You're not hearing it land on top of itself after, you know? Disclosure does a similar weekly thing. They hold a production challenge once a week on Discord when they can. Really cool. Love producer. Yeah. So, yeah, join us. I got to go check out the Disclosure one. Those guys are dope. Or I don't actually know. Is Disclosure 2 guys or 1? I don't know. But I know that the music is dope. So, yeah, we're trying to do that. And right now we're planning to do it every Friday. There will be some Fridays where we have to cancel, and we'll let you know on Discord. We'll reschedule. But submit your music, and I try to get through as many as I can. Last Friday, we got through 12. And I'll usually stream for about 2 hours. We'll do about 2 hours. I get through as many as I can. And then if I don't get through it, we'll move it to the next week, you know? So anyways, I guess on that note, if there's no other questions, I think I would just say thank you for joining us today. I want to send a big shout out to Beatport and Plugin Boutique for allowing me to host today. Thanks, Josh, for all the great questions. And yeah, brothers, they've oh wow, since 5 and 3. Yeah, no wonder they're good. They've been doing this forever. They're pros. So anyways, yeah, thanks Beatport and Plugin Boutique for allowing me to host. This was a lot of fun. If you don't follow me on Twitch, it's just twitch.tv/DJ Swivel. The links are in there. You can already see it if you scroll up in the chat. Join us on the Discord, Feedback Fridays every Friday. I'm also doing, I've started to get into Dolby Atmos mixing, so I've been doing some Atmos stuff. We're going to hopefully start doing some Atmos mixing on live stream, so you'll get your headphones on. We'll get to hear, sound fly around, do some cool stuff. And I'm doing a lot of, mix streaming. I have a show. It's... Oh, why are we not hearing it right now? That's interesting. Anyways, I have a little thing here. It's not working for some reason. But anyways, the show's called In the Mix, and basically I'm mixing songs live. So if you want to see my creative process during the mix where I'm figuring shit out and, oh, this kick drum sucks, let me replace it. And, the entire creative process, what I'm kind of mentally going through and how I'm approaching a mix, we do that. And sometimes those streams can go, I think the longest one, we did a stream for 7 hours where I mixed the song for 7 hours. I did not get up, had my water here. And yeah, we just sat and mixed the whole thing together. So join us for that. It's a lot of fun. And I think it's really helpful. The feedback I've gotten on this has been great. So Twitch is new. We're definitely building it. And other than that, you can just check me out at DJ Swivel on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, whatever. And yeah, follow me, stay in touch. We have some new plugins coming very soon. Well, a new plugin coming very soon. There's another one behind it, which will come a little later. But yeah, in the next few months, we'll hopefully have something else out. And I won't give a sneak peek yet. But maybe next week on Instagram or on Twitch, I'll give a sneak peek on my own. So make sure you follow me there. All right, on that note, I think I'm out. Thank you guys. I appreciate you joining us. And till next time, I'm DJ Swivel.